The White House published this 55-page strategy, this national security strategy. It's something every administration has to do. Is there usually a speech attached to it?
Not usually, but in this environment, anything Donald Trump has to say about national security that he bills as a divergence from past is something that gets attention, and he wants to make sure his credentials on foreign policy are well established. So he decided to give a speech. Although I must say, I'm not quite sure who was in the audience.
Yeah. That's a good point, because we noted that he was fairly muted. He was pretty much on script at the beginning. He did get a little bit more animated as the speech continued. Was he trying to speak to Russia and China?
No, I think he was trying to speak to a domestic audience, actually. And it was interesting to me that he cited the stock market record several times, and to applause. So it's not often you see a whole group of bureaucrats applaud the stock market, but he managed to do that today.
Didn't mention the US dollar, but he did talk a lot about America as an economic powerhouse too, didn't he? So that makes sense to me too. Nick, come in here as well, because he did use that term, a strategic competitor as far as China was concerned, and we were talking about the implications of that. And in the past, obviously, when George W. Bush was going to use this, it created a great deal of tension with China, and they decided not to use that term going forward. He also talked about economic aggression, but he wasn't specific to China, unlike H.R. McMaster last week when he referred to China directly. So what's your assessment here of, A, who Trump was speaking to directly, and how annoyed China's going to be as a result?
Well, the thing that really struck me about this speech was what you see as a fundamental shift from past administrations, where he kept talking about how the United States was a competitor and it was going out there to win. So he really sees the United States in some ways as being in competition and in opposition with other powers like China and Russia. That's an idea that had sort of faded away in the post-Cold War world, and past administrations had sort of talked more about a rising tide lifting all boats, that there was enough room on the world stage for countries to compete in terms of their economies and things like that, but there was more room for partnerships for China and the United States in particular to work together and be partners. So that was the first thing that really struck me. The second was this issue of getting more payment from other countries and reciprocity. You know, past administrations had really felt that by paying more than its share for these institutions like NATO, for example, the U.S. would able to get them to do what it wanted. It would have more influence. The Trump administration sees it much differently, believes it's been sort of taken advantage of in the past by these allies.